While the rest of the car world keeps arguing about who has the biggest battery, BYD just did something that sounds impossible. They built an electric vehicle with no battery pack at all. Not a smaller one. None. Because the body of the car is the battery. The floor you sit on, the structure that holds the whole thing together, is the power source now. And when you hear how fast this thing refills, you will understand why every other automaker suddenly looks a decade behind. Subscribe so you catch this stuff before the headlines do. Here is why it matters to you. This is the technology that decides whether your next EV charges in minutes instead of an hour, costs less, and stops being the heaviest, most fragile part of the car. Most people have no idea this already exists. But before we get to the number that made the whole industry go quiet, you have to understand the company that pulled this off. They did not come from where you would think. Because here's the thing. BYD didn't start as a car company at all. They started in 1995 making rechargeable batteries in a single rented room, supplying phone makers while everyone ignored them. But that obscure beginning is the whole secret, because it means BYD understood cells before they ever understood cars. And that's exactly why, in 2020, they did something the entire industry called reckless. They bet everything on a battery chemistry, lithium iron phosphate, that rivals had abandoned for being too weak. Therefore, they had to reinvent it. They stretched the cells long and flat, like blades, and packed them edge to edge with no wasted module casing. They called it the Blade battery, and to prove it was safe, BYD did something theatrical. They drove a fully loaded 46-ton truck straight over a pack. No deformation, no leakage, no fire. Wang Chuan-Fu, the founder, said his goal was to erase the phrase spontaneous combustion from the dictionary of electric cars. Pretty bold, right? But that same obsession, treating the battery as the strongest, safest thing in the car instead of the most dangerous, is exactly why the charging number they would later put on stage sounds completely made up. So why did a battery this good not just take over overnight? Because the rest of the world was busy chasing electric cars built the wrong way. And to see why BYD's approach hits so hard, you have to be honest about what's actually wrong with the electric vehicles on the road right now. Start with charging. You've heard the promises, but in the real world, a typical fast charge still drags on for 30 to 40 minutes, long enough to wonder why you didn't just buy gas. Therefore, people get range anxiety. And they're not wrong to. Plenty of electric vehicles still tap out around 250 to 300 miles and less in the cold. And speaking of cold, that's the dirty secret. In a hard winter, charging speeds can collapse, leaving you stranded at a station watching the percentage crawl. But it gets more basic than that. In almost every electric vehicle today, the battery is a giant, heavy box bolted underneath the car. Dead weight that eats your interior space and adds nothing to how the